is actually a part of the largest Kiva trustee in the state. Is that correct? In the state of Arkansas. And he actually went through the Kiva program himself. So without further ado, if you guys can make your way to your seats, we're going to welcome Bo Bennett of Garden Press, and he's going to tell us his story. Thank you, Bo.
Thanks. Morning, everybody. My name is Bo Bennett. I'm originally from Hot Springs, Arkansas. It's where I was born and raised. I went to school in Conway at UCA, studied agriculture and anthropology, didn't spend a single second in the business school. Business came secondary whenever I started a career at Whole Foods Market. For the past 4 years, I was a produce team leader here at the Little Rock store, doing about roughly $75,000 a week in sales. Pretty awesome, you know, high volume. It's definitely where I got my start in business, and kind of got me thinking about ways of interacting with the agricultural community and leveraging those resources that business can provide to the farmers and to the producers in the state. So yeah, I feel like I wear a lot of hats around here. I consider myself a juicer first, a gardener. I'm a food aggregator, so what that means is I go around the state to farms and to production orchards, and I aggregate produce here to the city to distribute to high-end restaurants, Whole Foods, fresh markets, some of the Krogers, like in the Heights and Hillcrest area. And that's also kind of, I've been doing that for about 2 years, and that's kind of where I saw the need for some kind of localized value-added company to utilize the B grades and all the extra stuff that was left over on the market. So when it comes to food waste, people think about food waste from the refrigerator to the trash can, or from a supermarket to the refrigerator to the trash can. But about 33 to 40% of food wasted in America is actually on the farm. Stuff that's left in the fields, considered like a pollinator melon, that's used in the production of seedless watermelons. Cat-faced heirloom tomatoes that you can't do anything with. They won't sell in a retail setting. So what do you do with those kind of products? It's kind of like it's how I approach my business. So here, I guess a little bit about myself first is I'm an heirloom seed saver. That's where I got my start in agriculture. I grow in my own experimental gardens, heritage and heirloom produce, and save it for seed, and in an attempt to replenish the genetic diversity and culinary diversity of food in this country. So on the far left there, you got me growing. That's me standing behind some massive mustard plants. There's some of there are just 4 raised beds that I cultivate in, and then there's a couple of backyard chickens that I definitely really like. I'm a big backyard poultry advocate in the city of Little Rock. In fact, if you're watching AETN on July 27th, you'll see this program called Agri Arkansas, and I did a really great little interview about backyard chickens and hyper-local food production. But anyways, next slide. Another shot of my garden. There's another chicken. Her name's Walnut. But I grow all kinds of stuff, and like that chamomile there, I sell that for about $20 a pound to tea makers and to goat soap makers and all kinds of stuff here in the city. So my garden, I use it to interact with a lot of startups and entrepreneurs. It's kind of a cool way of getting my foot in the door and talking to people about Kiva Zip, which is something that that Jordan mentioned. I'll talk about that a little bit later too. Next slide. Besides that, I also have a great opportunity here. I'm the market manager and coordinator of the Bernice Garden Farmers Market down in South Main, 1401 South Main. It's a Sunday 10 to 2 farmers market where we only source locally grown produce, but as well as locally produced things such as Kent Walker's cheese. You can pretty much find Kent there every Sunday selling cheese. Next slide. So kind of like what I'm all about with Garden Press. It was all about direct to consumer whenever I started the company. So my biggest aha moment was like whenever I was thinking about what kind of business I wanted to create that would benefit the local food economy. I was thinking about, fermentation and starting a restaurant that was farm to table. All these things are fine and good, and they do some justice to the local food system. But what does the most and what consumes the most produce is actually a fresh pressed juice operation. So every every 16-ounce bottle that you see over there has roughly 4 to 5 pounds of produce in it. And to a farmer, that's a huge buy. So if I can go to a farmer and tell them, I'll take all the kale they have, or I'll take all the cucumbers they can potentially provide, and give them not only a fair market value, but above fair market value for their product, because I value it as a locally produced, organically produced item. So one thing I do with the farmers is, you know, I want to be their buyer. I tell them that all the time. So whenever I go to like North Pulaski Farms and talk to Kelly Carney, who's an organic farmer here in the state, you know, my job is to figure out a way to utilize what he's not using. So juicing is a great catalyst for that. So, and also another reason I started the juice company is because this is actually a $70 million a year market in California, and it doesn't even exist in Little Rock. It doesn't even exist in Arkansas. So what we have here is a food concept, and there's many more of it in Arkansas that we just don't have, that they have on the West Coast and they have on the East Coast and in Chicago and Austin, places like that. Arkansas is very, it's like a blank slate out there in the food world. You know, there's so much we can do, so many avenues, so many businesses we can create that can utilize local produce and really benefit the farmers and the consumers. And it's a win-win for everyone. So being a heavy buyer of produce is very important. Adding value to that local produce was extremely important too. So a farmer will sell his produce and make about like $30 a case. Well, I give the farmer an opportunity to make 40 to 50 bucks a case off of, say, a 40-pound case of kale or apples or something like that in general. So this juice is something that's got really high inventory turns due to the nature that it's raw and unpasteurized. It's cold pressed, never heated. So this is something similar to Pressed Juicery on the West Coast, Blueprint Juicery in Chicago or in New York. In all these metropolitan areas throughout the nation, there are these juice operations that are springing up and becoming very profitable. So yeah, along with these win-win partnerships with the farm producer, this is also a piece that's, I really want to address the health and vitality of my people in this state. You know, I don't want to take my juice concept and fly off to San Francisco where I can immediately find investment and immediately start juicing for that market. I want to stay right here in Arkansas, and I want to grow the juicing business from in-state. Because this here in Arkansas, we're like the 47th state as far as obesity is concerned in this, and we have a whole generation of people that are my age that are pre-diabetic. And it's just scary to think about a future where we continue eating these heavily industrialized foods and see our health and vitality of our slip to the point where we can't even work, we can't even function as cogs in this great, you know, economy and this great working ecology. So impacting the health and vitality of Arkansans is probably my prime directive and something that I feel very passionate about. Next slide.
You got time for about
so
one more minute.
okay. My biggest the next thing that's happening for Garden Press right now is, so far I've been in an e-commerce based business. I've been web delivery only, and it's worked out great. But I need to expand. I need to get something brick and mortar down on the ground. So I've got this great opportunity to go with, I've been invited to come and play with Donnie Furneaux of Good Food and Butcher in Public with Travis McConnell. I've got this great opportunity, this great space I'm looking to open up in Argenta Market. I need to staff about 4 to 5 juicers. We're going to open up a juice bar finally, something brick and mortar where people can actually approach us instead of us going to them. Because right now it's all been delivery only. And also this is going to be a place where I can do some wholesale aggregation of produce to sell to other restaurants. Next slide, Jordan. Farm to bottle is kind of the concept. One farm that I work with heavily is Sue's Garden out in Scott, Arkansas. And it's also the label that you can find in Kroger and Whole Foods that I sell under. Sue's Garden is going to be the major supplier for this produce. So I'm trying to cut out the cost of goods in this business by sourcing directly from farms. From Sue's Garden, we'll go to a garden press produce wholesale and retail operation based there in Argenta. And the value-added element of that will be the juice and also cut fruit and selling things like that. Even lacto-fermentation, fermentation will be an option. Next slide. The ginger melon is what you're tasting back there right now. That's actually going to be an orange watermelon sourced by Laughingstock Farms with his own young ginger and holy basil that I sourced directly out of my own home garden. That's a really impactful juice, but this here Kale Force 5 is my healthiest and most impactful juice. And it's pretty much 75% local, 25% sourced regionally or nationally. I can't find green apples here that are organic. That's pretty much the only thing that's I'm unable to find. Next slide.
Well, we're going to have to cut off there.
Gotcha.
But what are, let's say, 4 or 5 questions that you'd like the audience to ask?
Yeah, okay. I guess if you have any questions about how we're going to pull this off, how we're going to scale up, all these things. So we're self-sustaining right now, but we're looking to grow, and I'm sure everyone's got 1,000 questions about what this juice is and what we can do. So I'll turn it over there.
Awesome. So first question, anybody? Eric.
Eric, what do you do in off-season, winter time? I mean, obviously you can't source everything local at that point due to weather situations. So how do you keep that model rolling during those winter months?
Well, it's a great question, Eric. And it's funny you should mention that because it's actually the opposite. It's how do I keep this operation rolling in the summer months is my problem. Because we can grow greens here organically. We can grow carrots and beets all winter long in hoop houses with my partners who grow in these new sustainable and organic ways. I'm not talking about plantation-style conventional agriculture, which has been a big piece of Arkansas agriculture in the last, 100 years. But what I do is I source a lot from greenhouses that grow year-round. So I find greens the cheapest in the wintertime, and they're non-existent right now. Like when heat gets above 90 degrees, everything bolts and everything becomes unavailable. So I do a lot of watermelon juice, of course, in the summer, and peach juices. I'll do a lot of I actually brew kombucha too, so I'll do juice kombucha blends, things like that. But in the fall is prime time. So fall and spring are my 2 most busiest and lucrative times of the year. Yes, sir. Right. Well, that's a good question, and I would say tomatoes are good relative to where you are in this country or where you are in the world, where they're vine ripened. So I don't like using national and regional produce for that very reason. It doesn't have a lot of flavor. It's not very impactful. So whenever I source heirloom or Roma tomatoes, those are probably the only two kinds of tomatoes I'll use in my juice concepts. I source them locally because I want to impact the local economy, local farm economy. So it's very important that I'm using my dollars as a business and I'm buying things from a local farmer. I don't want to send my dollars off to California. I want to spend my dollars right here in state. And I want to build a relationship with those farmers too, so I can let them know what I need. And also they can help me out with cost of goods. So maybe they can, if they do have some tomatoes that aren't potentially, they're not aesthetically pleasing for the retail markets. They're not a perfect round globe. They're a little cat-faced, on top or something like that. Or yeah, so that's, yeah, I totally have a source. In fact, I'm typically overrun with tomatoes, and I can't even juice all of them that I need. But one product line I've been working on right now is a local heirloom Bloody Mary mix that I can sell to bars, restaurants, and to consumers by the growler jug or by the half-gallon or gallon. So heirloom tomatoes come in a wider range of flavors and colors. So you can imagine a purple Bloody Mary, a yellow Bloody Mary, an orange one, a green one, each one being a different flavor, different concept. The orange one could be Thai flavored. It could have some turmeric root and some locally sourced basil. It'd be pretty awesome. Yes, ma'am.
So distribution and who are you actually selling to? Are you selling to consumers? Are you selling wholesale?
Right. So whenever I started the business, I wanted to do like a business in reverse where I got paid for something before I ever made it. Because in the world of fresh pressed juicing, it takes so much produce to render a product. So what makes sense for me is whenever I started my website, gardenpressar.com, you guys can go there and get an idea for what's on the menu and what I do. I try to keep things seasonally, but also, for me, like whenever someone buys something, initially like a CSA. So I kind of frame my juice business like a farmer would frame his CSA. So people there's a subscription option where you can get a 6-pack, 12-pack a week, or you can just order once at a time. I make the order 24 hours after a consumer purchases the order. So it gives me time to aggregate the products together, the produce, and run it through my juicers, package it, label it, keep it in cold chain, and then deliver it at a cold temp. So it's just like the process is the EFT, the transfer goes through their credit card, through the website. I literally make the juice the next morning, then deliver on the scheduled delivery time. It's a pretty cool model. It keeps me from getting in trouble with like spending too much up front, because every time someone buys something from me, they're already paying for the cost of goods that I need to make it happen. So it's what's kept my business self-sustaining and operating on a cash flow basis. Because being really young, I didn't have a lot of money to put into this operation, and I really took a leap of faith as an entrepreneur, leaving Whole Foods Market, leaving a really good career trajectory to do this business. But I thought I had the ideas, and I thought I had the concepts necessary to make it happen. So that's what I did. So I hope that answers your question. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely, yeah. So that's one of my biggest hurdles I had initially, was trying to pull off wholesale before I had the labor and the help to do it. So that's actually, the last slide that I had was the tiers of my advancement of my business. And that's about the second level. Like, hopefully I'll be back as soon as I can move to Argenta and open up a juice bar and get some cash flow going to pay people to start juicing for me. I can return to wholesale. There's a high cost of labor and a high cost of goods when it comes to doing wholesale. And if I want to keep the price point right, which is about $8 to $9 a bottle, I have to pull off a bottle of juice with labeling in completely packaged for like $5 to make it worthwhile to the retailers. And since I've came from Whole Foods Market, I have the door wide open there. They're ready to carry my juice as soon as I can possibly get in the door. And they've actually wanted me to do an LP loan, a local producer loan program loan, which is up to like $50,000. It's a 0% interest loan. But I simply don't have the manpower and the labeling down properly to do that yet. But that's my next year's plan, is to look into that. And right now there's also a lot of USDA value-added loan money out there that isn't being utilized, and it's something that I really want to tap into also. So that's a couple of avenues I want to look into, getting some investment to grow to that point of returning to wholesale and to really start flooding the market again with juice.
Hey, so, well, first off, I've got one of those, like, non-juice, but when I use that thing, it produces, it like takes 8 cucumbers and 7 carrots and make about this much juice. And now I got all this stuff left.
Right.
What do you do with the stuff?
Right, the stuff. Well, stuff is easy to handle. Usually I just give it back to the farmers to put in their compost, because I'm returning nutrients back to their farm and really operating in a really sustainable way. The thing about Garden Press, it's all about resilience. So I want to create a business that's a catalyst to create more businesses. So if I can grow Garden Press like I plan on, I'll have a lot of pulp left over to do something with. With that pulp, I can make raw macaroons. I could dry it out and sell carrot flour. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. Like, actually, I also have this product called pecan milk. It's a raw, unpasteurized nut milk, similar to almond milk. I use locally sourced pecans that are not only in abundance. We're overrun with them in Arkansas in peak seasons. So much so that it really affects the price that the farmers get for the pecans, because there's so many flooding the market. I feel like I have a model where I can absorb a lot of those nuts, milk them, and soak them, obliterate them, strain them, which is what we call milking them, and make a really awesome product that I can actually sell nationally. And a major piece of the puzzle when reaching the national and regional markets is this process called HPP processing. And if you guys have ever heard of juice lines such as Suja or Blueprint or these other big national juicers that sell to like Whole Foods and the fresh markets and the Trader Joe's out there, they're using a process that costs about $100,000 to get in the door. And it's a cold pasteurization process that boosts my shelf life, that will boost my 5-day shelf life to about 20 to 25 days shelf life. pretty impactful. And you can imagine if we had created this industry in Arkansas, this juice industry, we could be utilizing local goods and local like raw materials and creating a national product that we could sell at high-end retailers throughout the nation. And I know Whole Foods has 28 stores now here in the Southwest region, Little Rock being just one of them. And if I could easily get enough investment to tap into that market, there's no telling how big Garden Press could eventually become.
Time for one more question. Anybody have one? Okay, so I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the nutritional value of the juice and then also the pulp?
Right.
Are you missing any nutritional value? Do you need to
Right.
capture the pulp?
So that's a good question. That's a question that people always ask when we have a conversation on juicing. And there's a massive difference between a bottle of Minute Maid orange juice or Odwalla juice or Naked juice and what I'm pulling off at my price point. What I juice is raw and pasteurized, and it's for a very specific reason, because that's where the phytonutrients are that are very important at it's where the nutritional density is of a juice. So when you pasteurize a juice, you're pretty much destroying not only the bad bacteria, but the good bacteria and also the phytonutrients, things that like chlorophyll and some macronutrients that are very susceptible to heat. And there's a place for pasteurized juice in this world, definitely at a low price point, available to consumers in your supermarket. With the expansion and growth of Garden Press, I hope to see my raw, unpasteurized products, reach a lower price point. But the nature of it is, you're drinking pretty much everything but the fiber. When you drink juice, and it's low sugar stuff too. So this watermelon juice is actually kind of like an exception. Usually what I juice is really low sugar. There might be one apple in it, one carrot, like maybe 3 or 4 carrots, but it's mostly greens, and it's mostly celery and mostly cucumbers and stuff like that. And this juice here is going to be just phenomenally more impactful to people's health than something like Odwalla or Naked. I have a lot of people I've had a lot of clients and subscribers that are drinking my juice for very specific health reasons. I have one subscriber who literally does not have a colon, and she cannot process fiber. But one thing that she can get is fresh pressed juice to get the nutrients she needs to feel better about living. It's really hard going through life, like with these ailments. And Garden Press is great because it's one way I've been able to impact a lot of people's lives, and it's just been really powerful. It's probably one of the most powerful things that I've seen since doing this business, is actually helping people that really need it, really need the medical support. Yes, sir. Indeed, yes, yeah. Right. Well, I would say it's very important to exist as a fresh press juicer in a very decentralized way. As long as I'm fresh pressing and don't have the HPP processes, which were required to make it healthy for a national level of distribution, this technology didn't exist at the time that Odwalla had the problems with the E. coli. So I think having the quality assurances in your business of where you're sourcing is key, and I think that's where Odwalla made the mistake. So I think Odwalla was probably chasing dollars, and they weren't chasing quality. So I'm trying to produce something that's from certified organic, GAP and GHP certified farms. And that's really key to me, is like making sure that I want to reward the farmers from doing things right also. So that's another piece. Like, I'm not looking to source from conventional growers. I'm looking to source from organic producers here in state that I visit the farms that I see personally. And that's what I want. That's the kind of relationship I want to have with my business as it grows. I want to be on the quality assurance side, and I want to make sure that we're pulling off really good partnerships with these farms. But HPP processing is a process where it's a cold pasteurization in a way. You could think of it like that. And this technology is used now in a wide scale for a bunch of different juice brands that are currently on the market in the last 2 to 3 years. And I think if Odwalla had that technology in the earlier 2000s, they probably would have used it. But this is something that just recently came about, and it's becoming more and cheaper to do HPP processing. In fact, if I was running this company in Fayetteville, I would have access to an HPP lab at the Food and Science lab up there. But here in Little Rock, we don't have anything like that. There's no food and culinary experimental labs where I can take my juice to get processed. So that'd be something I'd like to see from the U of A. I know we don't have a land grant college here in Little Rock, but we definitely could use some facilities, same kind of facilities that they have up in Fayetteville. And if you look at Fayetteville, there's a lot of innovative and food startups that are doing really well based on because of the U of A food lab. And it's an asset that we really don't have here locally. I really wish we did.
Thank you, Bo. Give it up for Bo. So like we end every presentation, Bo, what is the one thing us as a 1 Million Cups community can walk away with today and help you?
Right. Well, I guess one thing is, so as I grow, I definitely need legal, accounting, all these things. Like I need people to help me figure things out because, like I said when I started, I don't have a background in business. I have a background in saving seeds and farming and, aggregating produce. So I can make money, but I don't know how to protect it in a way.
And we can find you at gardenpressar.com. That's right. All right. Give it up for Bo one more time.